Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great Sunday who's joining us live. Oh my gosh, this dog here is eating a rawhide. I really hope this is not super prevalent, or maybe I'll have to move. Actually, should I move? I'm gonna stay here because it's cooler. But yeah, as y'all know, I've made a lot of videos about my experience quitting my full-time job, really getting into the tactical strategies of how I did that. But at this point in time, it's been feeling really exhausting. So I want to be honest about it and just have a more unfiltered conversation on how things are going. And basically just create the video that I was looking for before I quit my job. The way I was Googling great resignation regret and finding nothing was really hard. So yeah, if you want the tactical strategies that I use in terms of the financial strategies, the housing strategies, definitely check out the videos in my description after this one. But this is just going to be like a nice little check-in moment. So before we get into all of that, I'm just going to give a quick reminder of my journey so far with this. So I quit my full-time job back in April 2022. So it's been a year and 5 months. I rounded. It's been almost 18 months, which is crazy because as I've mentioned in my previous videos, I only plan to be out of the full-time work grind for about 5 to 6 months. So I know a lot of people, first thing they ask is like, why would you quit your job? Because I just want to speak to this, like from friends, family, just people I casually meet. It's very clear that right now that there's just such an atmosphere of discontent around work. But despite that high volume of people who are very dissatisfied with their jobs, fantasize of quitting, not many people do it. So there are a lot of obstacles that are stopping us, of course, financially, but also a big part is the emotions, just the uncertainty and fear of being on a very undefined path where you have to take a lot more responsibility and do a lot of planning and take it's not like there's no path without risk, but you're taking it can feel like higher risk just because there isn't a track record of how to do it. So so yeah, this video is going to talk all about the good, the bad, and the mess of my adventures since leaving. Yeah. But yeah, I quit my job. The why, I don't think I've ever really specifically touched upon the why for why I left my job, but I didn't sign no NDAs, but I ain't trying to poke no bears by any means. But a big part was mental health. Like I was definitely on the brink of burning out, and I just really felt that I needed to get out of there. I think I got to the point where I realized like we have a, or at least I have a tendency to kind of this discount and discredit my mental health, take it for granted, allow myself to run on empty, especially for the sake of money and other things in life. So I think I had a realization. It just got so bad for me in terms of my mental health. It was just like health concerns. So I just realized it was the best choice for me. And of course, there were other factors around. I really don't want to start no beef, but let's just say there was a lot of misalignments, fundamental misalignments I was feeling in that role that also contributed to the mental health. So, like, all around, it just made sense to leave. And even despite the mess I'm in now, I'm not. I am messy. But I'm like I'm okay with it, and I really stand by my decision for leaving because you can't I just didn't want to take my mental health for granted. Like I felt like I was deteriorating it as long as I if I stayed there much longer, to the point it's like how do you fully recover your mental health? Like people talk about how it takes years to recover from burnout, and I was doing that and more. So I'm like I feel like it's getting like I don't want to do anything irreversible. Let me make this intentional choice to invest in myself and my health and wellness. So yeah, that's my little story there. If you have more questions, definitely feel free to put them in the comments. And before I continue, if you do have questions that I don't touch upon around quitting your job, my experience, anything at all, definitely if you're joining live, put it in the live chat. I'll answer it right here. But if you're watching the replays, definitely put it in the comments and I'll get to you. But yeah, let's get into the first reality that hits when you quit your full time job, or even before you quit your job. The thing that stops people from leaving jobs they don't like: finances, money, honey, as I say. So, and I want to especially emphasize, especially in this country where we're really not set up to take care of ourselves very well outside of a full time job structure. For example, the fact that our health insurance is tied to full time work is bananas. But again, it's just really emphasizing the fact that quitting your full-time job comes with you're really relinquishing a very multifaceted safety net for yourself. So it's a really, really big deal. So before I quit my job, I needed to create a sense of safety for myself financially. So I had saved about 5 to 6 months of my living expenses, and with the expectation to return to full-time work within that time frame. Clearly that's not the case because I'm a year and 5 months right now, but we'll get into that. But before I do, I feel like it's important to have a little bit of a clarification. So I actually didn't save that money to quit my job at this time. Luckily for me, on the financial side of things, a lot of timing just worked in my favor. In the same year, I left the nonprofit space and effectively doubled my salary. It happened to also be the same year that my friend really inspired me and turned me on to the financial independence retire early movement, also known as FIRE. And I talk about that in my money mindset video. Check that out after this, it's in the description. But it really helped the timing of those two things because I feel like it would be very easy without having a longer term financial why to have just kind of just increased my cost of living all around and just, it's called lifestyle inflation when your salary increases and then your expenses increase along it. But since I was so accustomed to living on basically half the salary and I had this new long term vision in mind, it allowed me to really not increase my expenses too much and put a lot of that into savings and investments. But even with that very exciting why of having like my financial freedom one day, I knew it was going to take a while. I still wasn't making mad bank. Like at that point, I did a little bit of a calculation. It would take me about 15 to 20 years to fully retire at the rate I was going, which is still great. Retiring in your 40s, that would have been amazing. Still possible. I don't want to give up that hope. But but at the same time, just feeling how I did even a couple of years ago when I started that savings journey, I knew I'm like, homie, you may not be able to hold out no 15 years. So you have permission to use this money in the future whenever you need to take a break. So that came around back at the beginning of 2022 for me. And but yeah, I just wanted to clarify that it's not like I wanted to quit my job and I had to wait super long to save and be able to quit. Luckily, I already had those savings. So I would recommend, even if people love their jobs now, like definitely save. Like you don't have to save just because I feel like it kind of this gives having savings for whatever, a future business, a future vacation, whatever, just investing in yourself. I literally call that money my future freedom fund. And this allows me, it just means flexibility and options. Yeah. Oop. And one more thing I want to say, especially around the money front, because I know like there was a time before I was saving, I was the complete opposite. Like my mom would be like, Ozzy, like, are you saving for retirement? And I literally told her, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to die before I retire. Like, I don't believe that now. I don't even know if I believed it when I said it a few years ago. Hopefully not. But it's to the point that there's always going to be an instant gratification component to spending your money. There's always like a brunch to go to, a quick trip to do, like this something fun and immediate to spend your money on. And it's easy to get to that trap when you're working hard, spending all your time at work, and you want to like, reap the benefits of that. So I believe what works for me financially that allowed me to make that switch is tying my savings and financial goals to that greater purpose, like a permanent exit, financial freedom, those options. That got me excited. That got me saving the money. That really shifted my perspective. So it's really important to understand what that is for you, and that can really help balance things. That is a whole tangent because we are here to talk about my mess. So let me get back to that because I literally just confessed to y'all, I only save 5 to 6 months of living expenses, but I still be looking for work. And part of the reason, or part of the ways that I have been supplementing, another part of my financial strategy is being a digital nomad. So I do not pay rent. And I also pet sit. So I pet sit in exchange for housing a lot of the time. And what else do I do? I thought there was a third thing. Yes, freelance, because I can't barter for groceries yet. So I still need cash for certain things. So I freelance. I have a few clients as an event host doing diversity and inclusion related work, which is very exciting because it's work that honestly energizes me more than anything I've really done full time. But I don't think I would have seen it as a possibility for myself until there was just something about taking the time off that really expanded my sense of options and opportunities and taking risk and just trying new things that better aligned with me. Yeah, so I think I covered the money stuff. Let me just check my notes real quick. Damn, I'm mean to myself on these notes. I said it's a mess. Well, I confess it's messy. I do not feel, and that actually brings us to the next section, uncertainty and insecurity. So let's just get into my biggest stressors right now. Of course, it's job searching, housing, and income and expenses. And of course, before quitting my job, I could address these things by my tactical strategy and by assuming I would return to the workforce in 6 months. But of course, this is not the case. So my strategy before quitting doesn't really reflect my current reality. So I feel, and just to like fully illustrate this mess, because okay, as of right now, I don't know where I'm staying for housing. Like my housing now ends today, then I'm staying with a friend, then I'm staying in an Airbnb, and then like a week from now, I do not have a clear sense where I'm staying. So just having such a little like runway of like your awareness is just really unsettling, especially if you've been doing it for several months like I have. And also in terms of the uncertainty and instability, I just had, or in this past week, I had about $2,000 worth of client work canceled on me unexpectedly. So again, like you're dealing with very unstable income too, which is very stressful. It's hard to forecast and plan for your future and use your money in a way to strategize something better or more stable without having much of it and having it poof away at any moment. And yeah, those combinations of factors have resulted in my housing being really unstable. And part of it is what worked with my strategy earlier that's not working now. At the beginning of, so I spent a good amount of time just writing out my lease since I quit my job. But once my lease ran out, I was like, okay, savings mode. You're going to go anywhere where there's a lot of pet sits, and that will allow you to link a bunch of pet sits back to back to back and not have to worry about those expenses. But unfortunately for me, I use trusted house sitters. I have many videos on that if you want to learn more about them and my approach and strategies around using that pet sitting strategy. But The problem that's right now is like with trusted house sitters, there's not really much overlap in places I want to go or stay long term versus where there's an abundance of pet sits. So right now I've returned back to my home base because I've been really craving community and stability, and being back here has been amazing. But there are not that many pet sits. Like I got very lucky. I got maybe it's also seasonal. It's a seasonal thing because I've been traveling all summer. People be traveling all summer. Now it's fall. Is it fall? Yeah, it's September 10th. Yeah, it's fall. So maybe the traveling is slowing down. And plus, I'm in a place with significantly less pet sits than all the other places I've traveled. So there are awkward gaps. I feel like such a mooch, but luckily, I have very wonderful friends who've offered me a place to stay during those gaps between my housing. I'm also looking into other strategies and really trying to think creatively and doing pitching work exchanges to places with varying degrees of success. But just, I'm saying all this to illustrate it's very messy and to the point, like the level of uncertainty and instability kind of this takes up a lot of real estate in my brain just to figure it out. Like it's not like I just have a lease and I only worry about housing when my lease is up. It's like I have to worry. I'm like piecemealing my housing together, and it just takes a lot of mental and emotional bandwidth. And oh my gosh, moving around so much. I'm saying all this to say that like tactical strategies are all very exciting. When I've shared a lot of my videos on the pet sitting, okay, the most recent ones, I've been very open on what I don't like about pet sitting and what's not working for me anymore. But in those beginning, like when you're just starting out implementing a plan, it's very exciting and energizing until it's not. And as someone who's been a digital nomad and just traveled extensively for a certain amount of time, I know I have this clock. It's really around the 6 month mark for me. Once I hit that 6 month mark, I'm like over it. I want to go home. I want to be back. I want that like traditional, not traditional, but I'm kind of over the glamour and excitement of being in a new place, unless I feel like it's home. But I haven't really found that long term abroad yet. But yeah, that is. I'm just talking myself in a circle. I'm still thinking about my housing. What else did I put in my notes on this? Oh, okay. The job search side of things. So, yes, I started my I'm like afraid to confess it because I'm feeling a lot of imposter syndrome about my job search right now. I was talking to my friend about it and she said like the exact right thing. She was like, let me paraphrase. She said, yeah, like people make like a job search is a lot of it is really outside of your control, but you're still left to feel like it's your fault or it is in your control. So it's very frustrating. And especially for me, I started my job search July of 2022. And yes, it's been well over a year. Imagine a job search that long. Other people have done it. I'm not alone in this, but this is the longest job search I've done. And I think part of what's making it more challenging is I am holding myself and employers to a very different standard than I have in any previous job search. In previous job searches, I would really want to chameleon myself into whatever this fit myself for the role and like be like, pick me, girl energy. But now I'm really looking for a lot of specific things. I don't want to end up in a situation where I want to quit my job again. I would love for this to be my final job search until I reach my retirement or start my entrepreneurial venture, what have you. But with that, you have to I feel like I have to hold my standards up front and really clarify and understand work-life balance, make sure I feel fairly and adequately compensated and respected. And I also need to make sure that the day to day work energizes me and aligns me with the type of skills, the type of growth I have. And I also feel like doing that not only helps me, but it helps my employer because who wants to hire someone who doesn't really want to be there, who's not really invested? But as you probably know, when you have standards, your options decrease. And this job market, from what I've heard from many people, is kind of rough right now. So, yes, I've been applying, and around this time last year, my applications led me to freelance, where I got a couple of clients quite quickly, long term clients I still have today. Very thankful for that. But on the full time job search, should I say this? It's been booty. It's been straight up booty. I've been like very shocked by the etiquette and behavior, actually, both from freelance and full time employers or freelance clients. Like, people be ghosting. It's people be this leading you on. I'm like, I had someone I was applying for. I made it to the final round. The final round interview, they had me hold all of these dates for travel throughout the fall. And then they just never got, I should have known because they ghosted me for 2 months before that. And then they ghosted again. So, like, uh, there's a lot I can say about the mess and the horror stories of the hiring reality today. And I just want to add, I've been very unpleasantly surprised by this dynamic. I was really hoping and expecting that with the pandemic and moving to remote work and people rage quitting, quiet quitting, great resignationing, that employers would kind of get in line and realize that they, this is a reciprocal relationship when it comes to work. We can leave at any time. Therefore, like, it's important to invest in your employees as people, not just workers who create money and revenue for you. So, and also, like, there are studies that show that remote work is just as, if not more productive. And but yet it seems like they're doubling down on their authoritarian ways, and they're like, okay, everyone get back to work. Okay, I'm on a whole rant. On a whole rant right now. But I'm just saying all this to say, like, this is just not what I envisioned in terms of I I don't know if I thought, yeah, I just didn't think it would take this long to both hold standards and find a job. But I'm really, really, despite just like the wariness that comes from this being on the search for so long, I really do. I'm really trying to manifest with all this September surge talk that there will be an opportunity that aligns and fits. And I don't feel like I have to compromise and end up in the same situation that led me to quit. So, fingers crossed for me. Fingers crossed for everyone who's job searching, because it's rough out there. I'm really trying to change up my strategy and do more networking, see how that goes. So, oh my gosh, I think I've covered what I wanted to talk about. Oh my gosh. Yeah, another thing I just put in my notes here is I'm very nostalgic for the comfort and consistency of full-time work. And I feel like returning to a full-time job would immediately relieve a lot of pressure. But of course, that also this makes me feel very helpless, because a lot of getting a full-time job is really out of your control. But yeah, it's kind of like it's funny. I used to be all like, I don't dream of labor, but now I'm like, I don't dream of labor, but sure be fantasizing about the benefits of full-time work and just feeling a little bit more taken care of. I know full-time jobs don't really take care of you, but this, knowing how much money I'm getting, having health insurance, like, there's just so, it's all tied together, y'all. But yeah, one other thing that has been a kind of unpleasant surprise in the uncertainty and the finance of this has been self-employment. We need to talk about this, because when you are self-employed, it makes no sense to me. I'm actually paying a higher percentage of taxes than I was when I was employed. Even though I'm in a lower tax bracket, because I'm not making anywhere near my previous full-time salaries as a freelancer. But it's the fact that on top of my state income tax and my federal income tax, I also have to pay a 15.3% self-employment tax, which puts me over, I think, over 30% in terms of like my income that is taxed this year, which is like, dang. Like, you think since I'm creating work for myself and I don't have health insurance and all these other things, that I don't know. But I kind of did want to touch upon entrepreneurship and employment and that dynamic because a lot of people who end up leaving their jobs permanently, they usually many of them will start a business or do something entrepreneurial in that way. And for me, while I haven't ruled that out, I want to be really intentional about that too. Like I need to be really in love with the idea. I really want to vet it. I really want to understand the problem I'm solving. There's a lot of research and intentionality for me around entrepreneurship. And I haven't quite, I'm still in the phase in terms of figuring out what exactly that is for me. And I also really respect and admire when, and I also feel like it's more my vibe, like when people start it as a side hustle and then like scale it up when they achieve some level of financial consistency. I like that approach. Like, given how stressed and overwhelmed I am, I don't want to throw more uncertainty at myself and put myself in a situation where I need to create something that immediately makes me money to live off of. I want to do it intentionally and right, and also do it in a way that's aligned with my lifestyle. That's a big thing I learned just by talking to other entrepreneurs. Because, there's a hustle and grind to a lot of areas of traditional entrepreneurship. But there's some people who are aware of that and they created businesses that are conducive to their lifestyle, that allows for passive income, that allows them to take long breaks if they want to, all those things. So there's a lot of things to consider. I haven't ruled it out, but I will say, just shifting into the next thing I want to talk about in terms of some of the shifts you experience when you're outside of full-time work. I feel like a lot more is possible for me. I feel like I'm considering more of those non-traditional paths more than I did from a full-time job. Just because I think living in this way outside of the norms has allow it kind of lowered the barrier to entry and also just introduced me to more people like me who are not in that traditional 9 to 5, understanding how they do it. There's a lot of us out there, but it's hard to see from your cubicle. So yeah, just meeting those people, working with them, a lot of my coworkers with clients, it's so cool to hear how they're living creative and entrepreneurial lives without relying on full-time work or outside of this full-time work bubble. um, but on the flip side of things, there are some challenges when it comes to this, like the social and the identity shifts that come with leaving your job. And yes, okay, like I mentioned before, not paying rent is core to my strategy right now of just existing outside of 9 to 5. But at the same time, right now I'm feeling a lot of like a sense of deprivation outside of having consistent housing. Again, I talked about this, the emotional real estate in the mental space it takes to constantly like piecemeal my housing together. But at this point, since I've hit that 6 month, more than 6 month mark since I left my home here, I'm just feeling very nostalgic and needing to connect and plug into a community and have that. Like I really crave that right now. So, which is a big part of why I came back here. Um, and also, like, even being back here where you had community, like a lot of these friends that I have here, most of the people I know are still in full-time work. So that comes with some weirdness. Like, for one, during the day, like they're only available nights and weekends. I have I am rich in time and poor in money, which I love to say. But that means that during the day, I'm like, it's just a totally different energy for me. But also because I'm not working full time, I'm not bringing in that full time income. I can't I can't afford the things I used to do when I had full income, like going to happy hours all the time and brunches. And yo, since I left, these prices have doubled. So I'm like, I extra can't afford this. So I've had to bow out of things like birthday celebrations. I'm like, I can't do no $100 brunch right now. Sorry. So it's kind of awkward because you also, while my friends are really understanding, it's also like they definitely have the right, especially working how they do, to do those expensive meals, do those more pricey options. And honestly, my budget is like very low. So anything like above $10 is very expensive. That sounds so broke. But I'm really trying to save my money and build a buffer and save for all those taxes I got to pay in a couple months. So that's just the reality I'm facing right now. But beyond friends, also on the dating front, dating is expensive. Like, I've been trying to do like the cheapest dates possible, but the default is like, let's do drinks, let's do dinner. And I'm like, that, especially for first dates, that can add up quickly. So it's kind of all that social realm, like being social, especially in the city, especially where I am, is really tied to money. So it still be killing my social vibes on multiple forms, even when I'm staying in the same place. Um, and the last thing I said, oh yeah, I've already said this, but yeah, let's get into the final part of this. So I want to talk about just like, let me just wrap everything up and really just think about the benefits and fulfillment that have come from full time work. Or, what the heck did I say? No, that have come from leaving full time work. Oh my goodness. This is me that's still fantasizing of the comfort of returning to work. Even though I'm gonna miss my time freedom, I know I am going to return to work with a lot more intention and perspective and just like a different energy. I feel like, especially since I'm being intentional about finding work that aligns with like the skills I want to build, the work I want to do day to day that energizes me, I am going to I'm going to approach that work in a way that I feel like will feel much better than anything I've done before when I've really tried to this reverse engineer myself into like reverse park into a position just out of a more scarcity mindset. Uh what else? Like I said, I feel like there's just so much more possible for me. Before quitting my job, I hadn't seriously considered more being an artist, being an entrepreneur. And now I see being an artist and entrepreneur as one and the same. Like they are like, especially if you're trying to live off of that, it's a business. Like you are creating something from nothing and trying to monetize that. I still have mixed feelings about monetizing art and like having to rely on that. I but I say all this to say this my time away has really allowed me a lot of self-reflection time, a lot of self-exploration time to really clarify what I want and don't want more specifically than I could have if I hadn't taken that full break. And it's also this allowed I feel more brave for leaving full-time work, and I feel like that also has bolstered my sense of capability. I don't think I really considered myself someone who could start their own business or share myself creatively publicly before. I just thought like there was many years just coming from like, growing up, being in like K through 12, then college and entering that first job, you're this like there's this like decades of conditioning that comes with that, trying to mold you into someone who enters the workforce and this like, someone who what am I trying to say here? You're just really conditioned to be part of that machine, like the grading and approval, and then it kind of turns into a boss employee relationship. I was definitely, especially after leaving college, I was like so fixated on proving myself, working harder, working late. There were times, this is such a good example because I feel so far away from this. When I had PTO in my first job, I would take it time off to study for the law school entrance exams, to visit law schools. Like I was taking PTO for professional development. Like I wasn't taking break. I was always this like, okay, time to climb this corporate ladder. Let's do it. Let's do it. But now I'm like, it's allowed me to really clarify what I'm doing out of habit and norms versus my personal choice. And I think that has made all the difference. I've had plenty of time to think and explore that. And in terms of full-time work, and also I've talked about wanting to retire early, possibly start a business. I feel like re-entering the workforce will allow me to do this because I can save money and invest in myself in different ways. Find an employer with there's where there's that alignment in what I want to learn versus what they need and have them invest in me. I feel mixed about even saying that last part because the job search is out of my control. And I don't want to feel like that is the end all be all solution. Part of me wants to hold space that, like, okay, this freelance thing is where you're getting a lot of your money. Every time I look for a job, I find another freelance gig. Like, it's clearly there's some momentum for you. So, am I denying that momentum because I'm this tired of this non traditional life and I want more consistency? Is it a sign that I'm supposed to really this continue this freelance path, or I don't know. Maybe it's just life and I am bopping around figuring it out like everyone else. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about. Oh, no. I can't tie it on that lovely talking point because I also mentioned oh, yeah, I didn't talk about that. The self-consciousness I feel. Like I feel even though I just talked about being brave and being able to create my own path, I feel like for me, that's kind of translated into some level of self consciousness, especially socially, because there's certain things that very basic, obvious questions that people ask that I cannot answer because I'm not in a traditional mindset, especially dating, meeting new people. What do you do? What do I do? I've gotten into the habit of just saying there's like some bullshit answers. Someone asked me that last week. What did I say to him? I said, I was just like karaoke. I was just saying random shit just because I knew what he meant, but it's just not a clear and concise because it's like, oh, I took a career break, blah, blah, like life story. No. Like, and most of the time people aren't really asking this. We're just so oriented to be like, oh, you work in nonprofits, oh, you work at startup, oh, you do this. What do you do? But like what? I'm really curious how I wish people would answer that outside of the realm of what pays them. But that is very unnormal, not normal. And honestly, I don't even know how to answer that. I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. That is the main point here. Yeah, I did not write a conclusion. I think I was hoping I would get to a sense of clarity and peace and understanding. But I think the biggest thing is I want to clarify. I still feel like what I did was the right choice. And it's not like me having some sense of buyer's remorse since it's not irreversible. But, or yeah, it's not that. Like, I feel like it's been a very important, but also kind of like a growing pain struggle bus era. And it's hard to even really call like you see me, I keep on trying to like give this a greater purpose, like, oh, this is my growing pains era. But like I'm in the messy middle of it. So I don't know if there is a purpose, what it is, how long this will continue. But yeah, I'm just creating all this, sharing my stream of consciousness because this is something that could have really helped me when I was really grappling with that decision. Actually, a friend just a couple of days ago was like, what was that straw that broke your back that got you to take the leap and quit? And I've always wanted to know, like, what is it really like on the other side for people who don't have business to transition, who aren't entrepreneurs on the side, who are transitioning, who don't have that long-term plan, and now you're stuck in a very tricky job market, or you're realizing you want to transition into something new in the job market, and the job market's competitive. It's just, yeah, I'm really trying to. I think right now the biggest thing for me is kind of embracing the positive. I don't I don't know. There's no answer. And I think that's part of it. Like I need to accept the I'm accept it or not, there's gonna be uncertainty, but I'll have more peace if I accept it and kind of just recognize the opportunities that I still have in front of me. The fact that I'm very rich in time. I can start meaningfully exploring my entrepreneurial journeys. I can and invest a lot of refreshed energy towards my job search, finding new freelance clients, growing my skills, working on this YouTube stuff. There's still a lot of opportunities that I want to remind myself of the things I'm going to miss once I'm back in a full-time job. And it's funny because I say that and I'm like, I actually don't know if I'm going to be in a full-time job again. Like, I feel like the future, like, I can plan all I want, but I don't know what's going to happen. But I know there are things I will miss about this time being in a full-time job in the future, if that's the path that will happen, if that's what's meant to happen. And I want to make sure I intentionally hold joy for that now. Do all those things in the daytime that y'all suckers in the cubicles can't do right now. So, no hate. I love y'all. I love y'all. But yeah. Okay. Well, I'm leaving this place today. So I have some cleaning and packing to do. But yeah, if you have any questions, want me to get into more, need some advice, I'm here for y'all. Have a great day. Peace. Where's the mouse? There it is. And